It is outperforming marginally yet again. So let's see whether this outperformance continues or not. So let's pose that question to our market master of the day. We do have Devina Mehra, founder, chairperson, and MD First Global, joining in. Thanks a lot, Ms. Mehra, for joining in. Have to ask you, the underperformance that we've seen over the last 18 months or so for the Indian markets, and it's been a large difference between the ones that gained and ones that didn't. We're among the few underperformers. Do you think this turns at some point in time? The AI trade, the excesses come out. And what's the next 12 to 18 months looking like for the Indian markets?
So India as a whole has done pretty poorly. I was looking at the 42 major indices that we track, and I think we are 38 or 39, so pretty close to the bottom. And but of course, the good news always is that usually out of the lot that are in the bottom five, very often, many of them move to the top five in the next period. And that is even when the country is actually in a crisis. So Sri Lanka, Turkey, Russia have all seen that over the last few years. And the whole thing of that India is doing badly because it doesn't have an AI story. It doesn't really hold, because in the US also, if you see, the small and mid cap index, which is the Russell 2000, has done more than double the move of the S&P this year. So that has included, of course, the technology related stocks, but it has included a whole lot of old economy stocks also. And talking real old economy, the Dow Jones Transportation Index, which has stuff like freight and car hire and airlines, is actually up 30% for the year, as against 9% for the S&P. So, the narratives that you hear in the markets are not quite what has happened, or at least not the full picture of what's happened. And I remember around March, when I was on your channel, I had said that I think the Indian market is in the bottom range, and I don't know whether it will start moving up in 2 weeks or 2 months, but definitely it was time to be invested. And that's still my recommendation, that don't be 100% in equity, but definitely it's time, whatever is your India equity allocation, be invested. And the good thing, of course, compared to 2025 in the Indian market itself, has been that 2025 was a very narrow market. It was essentially only large caps, which showed up in the fact that almost every Indian market index was up for 2025, but more than half the stocks were down. 40% of the stocks were down more than 10%. And at its narrowest, only about 12-15% of the stocks were outperforming the market, as against a norm of around 35-40%. Now the outperforming stocks are the majority. I think it's a little over 50%. So which means the market has really broadened, which is a good sign. So, it is kind of at a good base and a place to start.
Devina, just to zoom out a bit and talk about the global tech names, and at First Global and you've been looking at these indices, these individual stocks, for the last 25 years. And I go back to our earlier conversation where you had categorically said that AI is a bubble. It's not a question of if, but a question of when. And now, we were just chatting with one of our earlier experts, and he also sort of concurs that it's gone up too fast, and there could be a meaningful correction ahead. I mean, take us through, because every day is a new day when it comes to AI and the kind of news flow. So from the last time, in the last 3 months, how has your view on AI changed? Has it become stronger, that we are in a bubble? And what could the correction look like?
So, Rima, the thing is this, that it is not as if I'm saying AI will not be a transformational technology. That's not my view. The point is that whether investors make money in it. So because in the world, there have been many technologies that actually have completely transformed how human beings lived, from railroads to the internet, with automobiles and aviation in between. But most of these new technologies have been a graveyard for investors, because typically in the beginning, there is a lot of overinvestments. You don't know who will succeed and which company or which technology. And in AI, it's kind of on steroids. So you started with ChatGPT being the leader, then it moved to Gemini, then it moved to Anthropic's products, and that thing is still going on. The other thing, which is a bigger negative for AI compared to even undersea cables for the internet or the railroads, is that the whatever they are spending on has a very high level of obsolescence. So it's not even as if all these other technologies, what would even happen that suppose you over-invested, somebody else bought it from you at 30% of your cost price and could make money on that. But what AI is spending on will not be usable if it if a company goes bust 2 years later, nobody can take over those assets and use them. They have to be junk. The other part which people are not factoring in is the huge environmental load, the power, it uses fresh water. So there's going to be huge. I mean, currently in the US, most communities and states are fighting against allowing data centers in their community, which is very different from what we are doing. So those are the risks in AI. As I said, it is not a bet that AI will not change the world or everybody will not be using AI. That's not the bet, but whether you will make enough return on capital. The other part, see, from AI, actually, the thing is that, as you said, I've been doing it 25 years, and those specific companies, Micron and the NVIDIA, Broadcom, Samsung, all those specific companies we've been covering that long. And the thing is, people don't understand the cycle of semiconductor and semiconductor equipment. So anyway, the kind of baton had passed on from what were earlier the AI mega scalers, which were the drivers of the S&P in 23 and 24, the bull tired in 25. Currently, as we speak, out of those magnificent seven, as they were called, or they're still called, 3 are down for the year. So, Tesla, Meta, and Microsoft are all down significantly in 2026. So now the thing was, it's all going to be the semiconductor and the hardware and all that, which is what has actually driven a lot of the indices. But these are highly cyclical industries. And the reason is very simple. One, the industries themselves are highly capital intensive, and most highly capital intensive industries tend to be cyclical, whether it's cement or steel or hotels. The other part is that they are supplying for somebody else's capital assets, and that's a difficult, that's a different kettle of fish. If you're selling soap or toothpaste, if you sell 500 crores this year, there's no way you'll come down to 100 crores the next year unless your factory shuts down. It will be plus minus from those 500. But if you are supplying capital equipment to someone, I mean, this year the AI mega scalers are spending close to $1 trillion on setting up AI facilities. So that is what is driving the demand for all these companies supplying to them, high demand and high pricing power. But 2 years later, will they be spending $1 trillion? That's the $1 trillion question. Because remember, these very same companies 2 years ago, their total capex used to be 150 billion. So 150, they've gone to 800 or 900 billion. But who knows whether 2 years later they'll be spending that much. So there are also, while I'm talking that AI is a transformational technology, there are many risks to that, from exposing all your data to AI provider who might use it to train models which will help your competition, to the regulatory risk. We just saw the US government saying that certain Anthropic models could not be used by non-US users. So there are many, many factors like that. So, there are too many question marks, too much of euphoria. And I think the SpaceX IPO to an extent, was an example of how extreme this is. I have no doubt that in future editions of books on financial models, of financial bubbles, you will see a chapter on SpaceX.
So, Edwina, so you buy tech or don't buy tech in India?
The IT services companies?
Yes.
So, I mean, we are not overweight, but we do have holdings in IT services. I have not been the sort who thought this was an obituary for IT services. And I think I've said before on your channel also that the obituary of IT services has been written many times, from Y2K, that all the business was Y2K, what will they do now? Or digitization, or when SaaS, the software as a service, came in. But that's not how it has happened. And see, even if a company, an enterprise wants to use AI, they're not going to hand over the keys to their database and systems to the AI company. They will still need an intermediary. My bigger concern is that IT services companies were the big driver of employment in India for the last 25 years. They were the major driver, both primarily and then secondarily driving demand for real estate and food delivery and driver and security guard and nannies and all of that. And that is the big question mark that already we're not doing too well on employment. So it's more a macro concern for me than an IT services business concern.
Okay, all right. Since you mentioned Nani, Devina, that's the most important member. But anyway, getting back to markets then, I think one of the themes that you liked was pharma. And unfortunately, there's a bit of a shortage that's playing out on various drugs in the United States. And it seems that the Indian pharma companies could be well placed on that front. Is that one of your top themes that you like? And if you could give us a little bit more clarity on what you like, the larger players, the CDMO players, what is it?
Your voice kind of faded away, so I couldn't hear everything very well.
On pharma, what is the call?
Yeah, I know you're asking about pharma. So
yes.
We have been overweight pharma since the beginning of 24, so almost 2.5 years now. 24 was good for pharma. 25, it was like treading water, didn't do much. It has now started to move up, and still we like it. In fact, in the last rebalance, we had added a little bit of weight in pharma. Though our companies, the stocks we've invested in tend to be little more domestic oriented than totally export oriented companies. And we are quite comfortable with that profile.
Right. And what else looks attractive to you right now in the Indian market, if at all there is an opportunity? And for those who don't have, the chance of investing outside of India in AI themes, etc., and probably not the expertise either, who have to look at the opportunity set that we have here, where would you suggest one put their money?
So first of all, do have global in your portfolio. I have been an advocate of that forever and ever. So I have not discovered it in the last 1.5 years when India didn't do well, because that has to be part of your asset allocation. When I started working, the dollar was 12 rupees. So, that's your long-term financial goals right there. And we have a product that starts at $10,000. But coming to India, we continue, as I said, pharma we continue to like. Auto components, and to some extent, autos is again a theme we've played for over 2 years. And we always, when we are we're overweight something, every quarter we ask, is the story over? But the story still doesn't appear to be over. So we're still overweight. Other than that, I think capital goods, again, the industrial machinery, we would have become slightly overweight. And bottom up, of course, we have names in chemicals, FMCG, etc. Banks, while we are not overweight, we continue to hold more than what would be our 5-year average. And the sectors that started looking a little better off late and where we have added have been power equipment related. So that would be broadly where we are. Of course, right now, some beaten down sectors are also doing very well. Real estate being one, but we don't have exposure there.
All right, take that point. Thanks a lot, Devina. Always a pleasure speaking with you. We'll obviously, come back to this conversation in the next few months and see how this entire story does play out. And we'll keep an eye out on SpaceX and its future.